All right, thank you everybody for joining. We have Eric Martin from CoStar with us today. This is the second time Eric is virtually visiting our office. And it's kind of really super interesting for me, especially. I've always loved commercial real estate. This is a great forum for listing, viewership, and posting. If I correct me if I'm wrong, Eric. To post a listing is free of cost, but to actually view listings, it's because they're obviously building the inventory through it. But view listings, there's a cost to it. It's not phenomenally expensive, but it is something that we should be thinking of if we're trending towards commercial real estate at all at any points in our career. So welcome, Eric, and I'm excited to see your presentation for today.
Thank you, Sabiha. Thanks for inviting me. Hey, everyone. Again, thank you for letting me join today. This is the second time I'm here, and I'm honored to join. I'm excited to tell you all a little bit more about CoStar, about who we are as a company, what we do, and then also look at some use cases, how I know some of my clients, brokers, commercial brokers, are using CoStar to help them navigate the choppy waters in the current market. Sabiha, it's interesting that you had mentioned people looking at commercial more than residential. What's interesting, in my opinion, about commercial is the fundamentals of residential are usually about the same, right? It's the same, demographics, interest rates. But what's interesting in commercial is you can have some sectors like office that may be struggling, but you have other areas like industrial, apartment buildings that are quite in demand.
Yeah,
So
Eric, and mortgages are given in a completely different manner. If you have an owner-occupied, say, dentist or a doctor's, a lot of times the financing is 100%.
right.
Right. So there's a lot of benefits of looking at commercial real estate for your professional clients, guys out there. I'm sure everybody has some in the CRM, and start thinking about it in that manner of encouraging them to maybe make investments in commercial linked to their business profiles, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So with no further ado, I'm going to get into what I prepared. Like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit first about who is CoStar. So for those who have seen it before, just a quick walkthrough in a PowerPoint, and then we'll jump into CoStar itself. And I have a few use cases that I've thought up, and if we have still time at the end, we can do a little Q&A, maybe explore a use case that someone else has in mind. If you have questions, please feel free to use the chat, and we can address those periodically as we go through. Okay, so I'm going to pull up CoStar here. 1 second. Do you mind, Sabiha, allowing me to share
Oh,
screen?
I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
No problem.
You should be good to go.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Absolutely, yes.
Wonderful. So like I said, first we'll talk about who is CoStar, then we'll get into the research and technology, how we collect the information, and then we'll get into CoStar itself. So first things first, commercial real estate professionals can spend up to 40% of their time simply trying to find information in order to do their job. I know this a little bit firsthand. I used to be a broker at JLL downtown Toronto. I did a lot of investment sales, a lot of retail redevelopment plays. And I know from personal experience, before I had CoStar, finding out who owners were or finding out information about sales in an area was time consuming and difficult. Question is there not a better use of your time? And that is with CoStar. So who is CoStar? CoStar is the most comprehensive commercial real estate data and the most influential network of commercial real estate professionals. We've invested over $5 billion in research and technology over the past 38 years. about 5,700 employees, 200,000 or so CoStar subscribers, 29 brands under the CoStar Group umbrella, and CoStar listed on the S&P 500. Here are a few marketplaces that CoStar has. These are some of those CoStar brands. LoopNet is going to be probably the most well-known here. That's a commercial real estate website, properties for sale, space for lease. If you Google right now, office for lease in Toronto, LoopNet is going to be right there near the top of your search. Other big ones to note would be apartments.com. That's the leading apartment rental network in the US and has recently been in Canada about a year and a half. And what that means is data from LoopNet on listings, on sale prices, rental rates, apartments.com, information on those rental rates, vacancies, they all flow in to the CoStar data mothership. Okay, research and technology. Aside from the $5 billion that we have spent over the past 38 years, the real backbone to CoStar is we have a lot of researchers, 1,600 plus research consultants, whose job it is to reach out to brokers, owners, whoever it might be, to get updates on availabilities, on properties, on construction, and more. We give them access to real-time data feeds too, which I'll go into a little bit more. We also have a team of market analysts and economists. I was mentioned to Sabiha at the beginning. We have a staff of economists here in Toronto that work on thought pieces, do webinars. We also have a team of journalists in-house. These are some of those third-party data feeds that we either directly incorporate into CoStar or our research team leverages as part of their toolbox. Geo Warehouse, everyone's gonna be familiar with Geo Warehouse, parcel ownership information there. Trebnet, we get a direct feed from Trebnet for all sales. So every sale that comes in that's over 750,000, we get directly sent the deed and the mortgage to our research team from Trebnet. And then MPAC, tax assessment, ownership details we get from MPAC. And then we also have some other third-party feeds like Newstar down the bottom right, that's demographic data, Calibrate, traffic counts, Oxford Economics, economic forecasting. This is where I also want to kind of pause and kind of reiterate what CoStar is. And Sabiha gave a little explanation in the beginning. What CoStar is not just what's for sale or for lease. CoStar is all commercial real estate properties. And when we say commercial, we mean everything that's not single family homes or residential condo units. So that research effort to find all of the properties in our markets and to get information on them, that's led by this team here. They're driving in cars up and down the streets in neighborhoods, and they're even flying the CoStar plane, which comes to our major markets every year or two. It's coming back later at the end of the summer, I believe. Really great. Here it is flying over Vancouver, capturing new development projects. Then we have the in-office researchers. So I mentioned them before, calling brokers, owners, and developers. The goal here is to reach out on a 30-day cycle to get updates. This team alone in Canada, so just a Canadian team, makes 10,000 updates every day. Sale comp team. Sale comp team I mentioned as well before, direct feed from Trebnet. They get the deed and the mortgage, but they don't just put in the basic details. They're also going to interview the related parties, the buyers, the brokers, the sellers, and try to get as much clarity and additional insight as they can. Finally, a tenant research team. So the tenant team, they're responsible for uncovering and verifying data on tenants, commercial tenants. 418,000 tenants are currently profiled. And the team's looking for information on expiration dates, lease terms, and contact information. Here are some enhancements we've made to the product over the last few years. The main point here is what CoStar does is we continuously reinvest into the platform, add new features at no additional cost. So most recently, added an owner search module that just came out a few weeks ago. Detailed commercial real estate owner search, contact information, transaction data on those owners, and more. Here's our coverage across Canada, and we also cover all of the US, the United Kingdom. To wrap it up, all of these groups here, they all use CoStar in slightly different ways. Brokers use it one way, owners another, lenders, appraisers, retailers, governments. The main point, though, to boil it all down, they use CoStar, one, to save time, and two, to find new opportunities they may not be aware of otherwise. So I'm going to stop there, and this will be a good time to just kind of open up and see if anyone has any questions. Any questions out there?
So, if I may, Eric, so what's really interesting, guys, is that it's not just active listings or lease listings or purchase listings, but actually everything that is out there, because we know that there's a lot of times that there might be an opportunity for a client in an existing place where there's a business running out already, but they want to take over as a sublease or so on and so forth. Especially, Eric, I think given the feel of the market right now, and there's a lot of businesses trying to get out of their commercial spaces, and a lot of their employees are working from flex from home.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So being able to identify some of those larger tenants and even, for example, if you have theories like, let's say, oh, I want to find all of the tech tenants. And then, I have a theory that they're more likely to work from home because that's maybe the culture at some of these companies. Maybe those groups are more likely to be trying to sublease out their space faster. Everyone can see my screen. I got CoStar up here now.
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Okay, main page of CoStar is here. So on CoStar homepage, I mentioned we have our own team of journalists and economists writing news that can be customized according to geography and themes. So you have what's happening around the world here, and then you have different themes. So office, retail, but also development, analytics, finance, some big people in the industry. And then there's also legal legislation as well. And then at the bottom, you have your CoStar contacts. So if, for my clients, they would have access to me here or Alex in this case to reach out and ask, for example, hey, Eric, how do I find a list of people who have bought commercial real estate in the last 6 months in Richmond Hill? Because I will have a seller and I want to, see who would be willing to buy. That's something that I can show my clients how to do. Or how do I set an alert so I'm notified every time development land sells in Halton, because I want to know what that price per acre is. That's something we can do. You also have access to a client relationship consultant. So someone like Nadia here, her role is twofold. One, Sabiha mentioned it before, if you want to get your listings on a CoStar, you can directly reach out to our research team and they'll be glad to upload that information into the platform. But for our subscribers as well, Nadia and team, they are an extension of your research. So if you have questions about the data in CoStar, say, for example, you come across a property that doesn't have zoning information, you want to know that, we can ask Nadia and the researchers. Or you come across an owner, you call the phone number, maybe the phone number doesn't go anywhere. You're like, hey, this phone number is out of service. Can you see if you can find a more accurate one? They're happy to oblige. So I think one of the best parts about CoStar is saving you time, but giving you access to research in a house here. At the top, we have our different modules. So this blue ribbon, this is all different sections in CoStar. Properties is the main module. What's for sale, what's for lease, and that full inventory of properties. I'm going to jump into that now. While it loads up, I'm going to explain leasing. That's everything for lease comparables, so completed transactions. Sales, for sale, sale comparables. Other big ones to note, I mentioned the owners module to want to search that's new recently, searching for owners. Tenants module, where we can go and find, let's say, tenants with upcoming lease expiries. And the other big ones could be the market section. That would be the macroeconomic view. If you want to look at what's the average rental rate for apartment buildings across, the greater Golden Horseshoe and the GTA, you get that kind of information there. Okay, so now what we're seeing on the home or on the main page here is you have some listings on the right-hand side, and then on the map, all of those diamonds represent commercial properties. The blue ones are actively for sale or for lease, and the gray ones are not on the market. So the gray ones are all the off-market properties. A good way to view this is if I come over maybe this way, come down towards the airport here, you can see that we have in this area right here, every rooftop has a pin on it. And that's how we're able to identify all those properties. All the gray ones are just existing, not on the market. The blue ones actively for sale or for lease.
Eric, can you get access to this with your membership? Is it annual? Is it monthly? Is it by project? Can you come on? How does it work?
Yes, good question. So membership is an annual basis. And yeah, annual basis. There is a price for an individual level, and then there's also a brokerage level contract. Happy to kind of discuss those
Sure.
in finer detail towards the end.
Yeah.
So one thing that maybe I want to look for CoStar is let's look at how we can identify availabilities in a certain area, but also see those off-market properties. So if I want to, let's say, look in a certain part of the city, I'm going to use this location tool over here, and maybe I want to go to a region like Durham. There we go. So there's Durham. Actually, no, I'm going to use York. Let's use York. There we go. York region. And let's say I'm looking for retail. So if I'm going to go in here, I want to look for property type at the top. We have office, industrial, retail. Like I said, everything except for single family homes and residential condo units, including land, including retirement homes and healthcare.
Eric, you're frozen. Guys, can you hear me? Or is it just on my end?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sabiha.
Okay, so
We'll just have to wait a few seconds for
yeah, sure.
Eric to unfreeze. So, but the really cool part here is that the amount of research that these guys do
Hmm.
and everything that's off market, right? So this is not necessarily listed for sale on the market. It's all the research that's done behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking I had so many opportunities, but I didn't have access because I remember at one point I had somebody who was looking for seniors' homes. And there was nothing that I could find. But in here, if you can actually go in areas, put in the seniors' homes, and then try to make a deal happen, right? Because, you know, they say everything is for sale at the right price. So
Or the right opportunity, right?
hmm?
Or the right opportunity.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to get Eric back, guys. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Oh, there he is.
Hi, everyone. Apologies.
There you are.
I'm back. I'm back. Sorry.
No
I think the
worries.
helicopter flew above
Exactly.
yeah, too far.
Exactly. Okay. So hold on 1 second. Resharing my screen here. Can everyone see my screen again?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so where was I? So what I'm looking at is we're looking at York region, we're looking at retail properties. Now within retail, I can go into the filters here. We can see 3,200 retail properties, 189 spaces for lease in York region retail. Tons of other filters we can look through here. So in the building section, first of all, if we're looking for pre-construction properties, what's under construction, what's proposed. Let's also put on for lease for now. Let's see that for lease stuff. So 94 properties, 189 spaces. Some properties have multiple availabilities in them. So we can look to see, if anyone's interested in like pre-construction, what's under construction, what's proposed, what's in the planning stages. And we have a few properties. Looks like 3 properties all up in, just south of Georgina there. Maybe a little plaza outlet center being built. If that's something we want to pay attention to, something as specific as retail that's under construction actively for lease, we could save that search just like this and do like retail under construction, actively for lease. Enable alerts and save that search. So that way we can come back to it and also be notified about that new opportunities going forward. I'm going to keep going though. Let's say we want to do, I'll remove those. We're looking at retail properties. We can filter also by the size of the property, square footage. Is it a shopping center type? The secondary type, which could be something like, convenience stores, department stores, auto dealership, gas stations or service stations, street front retail, lots of different options. Year built. Is it a multi-tenant or single tenant building? Is it occupied by the owner already? And more and more. So I'm going to go down to the for lease section. Let's say I want to find retail space in a retail building. That makes sense. Sometimes though, you might have second floor office, for example, or medical space. We're looking for direct leases or subleases. And more filters around days on market, terms, etc. But let's say we got our filters there. Oh, actually, one other thing I think is important to notice, especially for retail, so we can filter by other retail tenants nearby. A lot of retail tenants are, work well together. For example, doctor's office and pharmacy. So for example, I want to find properties retail for lease that also has a doctor's office in it. So I could put in a specific tenant name like Loblaws, let's say if you're looking for shopping, or store type, and that would be all the different options here. Great. Okay. But then when we're done, we have our 77 properties, 136 spaces for lease. I'm now going to go from the map view to the list view. And in the list view, we have those properties in a table format. I can export them into Excel like that. Great. We can also see very quickly information on zoning, the year built, taxes, maintenance, and insurance. So what are the building expenses? If they have recent sale history. So these two are actually actively for sale. Looks like some condo units are actively for sale. And then we can also see here recorded owner and true owner. So I think this is important to take a look at as well. CoStar excels at locating the true owner. You may ask yourself, what's true owner? Well, if we look here, this is a great example. So you have 265-1571 Ontario Inc. Well, we actually have the true owner here, names as well. So here, same thing, numbered company, name. Now an example here, numbered company, no name. We have the research team. Ask your research team. They can go and find that information for you. To quickly walk through the options, though, I said 77 retail properties, 136 spaces for lease. If I click on spaces here, we'll hear all those spaces. Some properties like 130 Davis have multiple availabilities. There's your square footage, your rent, is it net or gross, taxes, maintenance, and insurance, the occupancy, listing company, term of the lease, notes. And if we keep walking this line, lease comps, here are some recent lease deals that have happened within these 77 properties in the last year. Let's see what we got. Now, lease deals, those are difficult for CoStar to get. As you're going to see here, rent type, asking, mostly asking rents. As brokers know, they don't want to share necessarily the rental rates as often, which we totally understand. What we do know here, though, is deals were done, date, area, approximate rent, sometimes some tenant names, the use. And we do have, for example, there's a starting rent there. So starting 1967 net for about 360 square feet, tiny little shop. Another starting rent down here. Okay, keep going. While lease comps are difficult for us to get, sale comps are much easier because I said before, direct feed from Terranet. Okay, within these 77 properties, there's been 13 sales within the last year. And if I come through here, you can see sale price, price per square foot, and then we'll have information. A lot of these are condo units. You can tell by the size here. And then here are the buyers and the sellers. Finally, though, I wanted to come back here. And remember, these are all the properties that are available for lease. If we want to see, though, the off-market properties, I'm going to remove for lease. I'm also going to remove in here the space use. This is all for lease information. I want to get back to just all of the retail properties, the 3,200 retail properties in this area. If I want to just get a better understanding of who the owners are, go back into the list view, and we now have the owners tab here. So this is a great way to understand, who owns, and it doesn't have to be as general as retail in York region. It could be, let's look at just owners on Yonge Street between Shepherd and Finch, or north of Finch, or along Eglinton East in Scarborough. Here we have owners. You can sort by the total number of properties that they own that are in our search. So you can have some big groups like Smart Centers, of course, down there. You can compare this column, properties owned, to properties in the search to properties owned. So some very large groups, of course. But if we come down here, you're going to get some smaller groups, like, for example, garden commercial property. I'm not sure the full name there. Let's see. Corporation. 8 properties, kind of property management and ownership, looks like, all based in Richmond Hill, Newmarket. If we want to contact people here, I click on the contacts tab. Doesn't look like we have information today, but again, you ask the research team, they'll see what they can dig up for you. We do have information on the website, though, and the phone number there. We even sort by types. So if I want to just look for user owners in this area, retail user owners, I click on user, and here we go again. So coming down this list, and you'll see some big groups, but also some smaller groups. Phaeton Automotive Group, New Roads Automotive Group, and we can see their properties there.
Eric, can you show us something more specific, for instance, like a warehouse and what the listing may look like? Like, I
Sure.
mean, for instance, if a client is looking for a certain sort of amps available, or so in a specific listing, what all would there be if it's available for purchase or lease?
Sure, absolutely. And would you like to look for warehouse specifically?
Sure, like, or anything else, but just to see what kind of information is available.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go property type. Let's look at what's for sale or for lease.
Yeah, sure, that sounds good.
We'll do for sale. We're looking for industrial. And within the buildings, I'm looking specifically secondary type. We can do warehouse or industrial. So 141 warehouses across, our screen, whatever's on the screen right now, 150. So we could narrow this down to, let's say, I just want to look using the radius tool kind of around here, like kind of North York up to Richmond Hill. Vaughan, Markham. So 19 properties currently for sale. Before we look at the list, we can also filter by price, by advertised sale type. So if the broker's advertising as an investment play or an owner user play. And the other important thing too is we can look for, maybe we want to include only commercial condos, or we want to just have freehold. I'm gonna look.
Yeah, can we go up
condos.
for a second? Because I wanna kind of see what they have in them further up.
Further up, like the filters.
Yeah.
So it'll be in the building section.
Yeah, right here, right? So it kind of says the purpose.
Yep. Property type, size, secondary type. So that could be like industrial or showroom, manufacturing. The land area, percentage leased, does it have some leasing issues? When was it built? Single tenant, multi-tenant. And then for industrial as well, clear height is obviously
That's important.
relevant.
Yeah.
Drive indoors, loading
Zoning.
docks.
Zoning, very important. Okay.
If
Right.
And then one other thing I want to show is I want to look at a specific listing right now.
What are the stars based on?
The stars are CoStar's proprietary rating system. So it's kind of like Class A, B, and C, except how it works is, a Class A property in, let's say, Sudbury is not necessarily going to be the same as a Class A property in Toronto. The star rating allows us to compare apples to apples in different markets. So a 5-star property is going to be a 5-star property no matter if it's in, let's say, Sudbury, New York City, Vancouver, London, England, whichever. So how's that helpful though for brokers? Well, if you want to look for, you're representing a tenant and you want to put them in the best space possible, maybe you're looking for 4 and 5 star properties. However, if you're on the investment side, maybe you want to look for, 1, 2 star properties that are, potential for redevelopment. In fact, let's take a look at 77 Martin Ross here. This is a good one because it's both for sale and for lease right now. Okay, so as this loads up, you can see at the top, you have information on the size of the building. So high level numbers up here. How big is it? The acreage, when was it built? It's fully vacant or fully available rather, and vacant. You can see it's going 19 net. And it's also for sale at 9.75 million. Coming down here, you have information on the building. So we'll get to this. We'll get to the rest after, but all of this is searchable, right? I mentioned the clear height, 16-foot clear. It's got 1 dock, 2 drive-in doors. It's also got a little bit actually, it's got quite a bit of office. So 65% is currently used as office. Probably could be a mix of both. And then you have the land down the bottom, including the zoning and the tenants in place. If I want to look more at the for lease listing, I click on for lease here, corresponds to the top here, the lease tab. I can then see and click into this space to get a bit of a summary. So CBRE is listing it. It's 19 net as we talked about. I think I saw some information on TMI. Oh, when was last updated? Last updated May 8th. So we try to update every 30 days. If you want to get an update though, you click on the update button here, reach out to the research team. Hey, is this still available? Or maybe, hey, do you have any floor plans for this property?
TMI was on the original listing, on the main listing.
Yeah, right there. There's your
Yeah.
TMI. So there's your gross rent there. And then if we look at the sales side, you can see one, it's currently for sale. So you have information on the, how long it's been on market. It's been on market for almost a year at this point. It's tagged as a core investment type. And you have the brokers there to reach out to. And then what's nice about this is CoStar will always give you one, do we have prior sale information? CoStar sales go back about 10 years. So if we don't have it, it'll probably be because the sale was before then. And then all of these are nearby comparable sales that maybe we want to look at to see, well, they're asking what, 500 per square foot? Does that make sense? So looking at some comps, you have all these here. Most recently, I noticed we have this one, it's 2 kilometers away, sold not too long ago, 400 per square foot. And maybe we want to take a quick look at that comp and see if it's relevant or not. So you come in here at a comp record, you can see again the recorded owner, which is going to be on title, but the true owner is who we care about. And we have contact information for both buyer and seller. In the transaction details, you can see the price per square foot, price per acre of land, price per square foot of land. There was some financing involved, and it's always great to read these notes, which are done by our research team. So an on-demand loan of 11.5 million from RBC. The broker involved. And again, always got the researcher down there. Interesting note, sale date, March 11th. When was it published on CoStar? March 14th. That's pretty typical. We try to get everything up within a week. Okay, it's 12:12 now. There's lots more that we can dig into in regard to this, but I had a few use cases that I kind of wanted to show, if that's all right. So what I have over here, I'm also open. If anyone has questions, please feel free to reach out or to message or chime in. I'd be happy to show you. So what do we have here? So this is an example of the efforts that I've done recently. So what did we do here? Right now, we're looking back at properties, but I went into some of the other filters here, and I went to the sale comp section. So what this is let's find properties that were last purchased in a certain date range. So I picked beginning of 2019 to beginning of 2021, kind of around the beginning of the pandemic. I also said I want these to be investments, not owner user sales, and I want them to have financing involved as well. What's my theory here is people bought properties when financing was cheap, and maybe that was the wrong time to purchase, especially if it's land for development purposes. So now we have all these properties on my screen, 674 properties that were bought in that time period and that were financed and were investment plays. Now I want to also filter down by what type of property we're looking at. Let's say we're looking at land, like I said.
You said something very interesting, Eric, that when financing was cheap was the wrong time to purchase.
Potentially. You know what?
Yeah,
I'm not 100% sure myself. This is just a theory that I've been working on, and I think a lot
for
of people
sure.
have found. And you can see some blue pins already in there. People may be reselling that land. So what's this one down here? We have, 3.4 acres of residential land currently for sale at 17 million. Kind of Danforth, and I'm not sure exactly where that is out there, but what's this one down here? Another, small bit of development land on Queen East, Leslieville. And we can even come up north of the city here where you get some more, larger development sites, I'm sure. So one right there in the middle of Richmond Hill that's for sale, an acre of land, 8 million. So this could potentially be a call list, especially if you have a buyer who's looking to capitalize on some of these. All right, here's another example I had lined up, which was, how about, and Sabiha, it's funny, I think you'd mentioned this before, is let's look for owner users who have bought condo units recently. And we can even look by the type of buyer. Are they a local buyer, national, or foreign buyer? All of these I've added so far is I did properties that have been purchased in the last 2 years that are condo sale, or so I've excluded condo sales. Let's say I want to include only condo sales. So buyers that have bought condo units in the last few years that are also owner users. And I can now go, let's say I want to just pick an area up around Markham, Richmond Hill, Scarborough. And then I go into the list view again. And this time in the sales section, we're in the sale comp section. These are only done sales. Instead of seeing owners, what we see here is buyers and sellers. So I'm gonna go to the buyers tab. And I always tell my broker clients, like, if you have a listing, first thing you do, you go to the buyers tab, you put in the filters of what kind of property. So now we haven't selected if it's industrial or retail, but these are owner user condo sales. And you can see here, we have a few of them, some businesses, some individuals. And let's say we're looking at this one right here. What's that one sale? So, okay, bought a condo unit, 4675 Steeles East, first floor retail unit, 1.8 million. Okay, what do we have in the notes here? Doesn't say specifically what, plans to open a new restaurant. And you can see here, we got contact information for the buyer and the seller. And we can do this for any different type, right? This is a very specific thing, but I think that's what makes CoStar so great is you can be very specific. And even if nothing comes up, so say we did this search, nothing came up, well, save this search, set an alert, and when it does come through CoStar, you get that alert. And I'll finish by looking at my alerts here. I got tons of alerts set up. Here's industrial and flex sales in the GTA that are at least 1 million. So it shows me the data was added to CoStar, which is today. All of these added to CoStar for sale, industrial and flex in the GTA. What's the next search? Oh, this is a good one. 7 cap, an advertised 7 cap rate in Ontario. Doesn't matter the asset class. So we have an apartment building in Sarnia. Beginning of May, there was a larger mall that was actively for sale in Markham. You have, this is a good one too, new supply of condos. We can also set alerts for new development. So if you want to keep tabs on all the new condo or apartment building under construction, Well, you can use this to set an alert and be notified about those too. Office for lease in Mississauga, 20,000 square feet plus, 50 acres of land in York region for sale. You guys get the idea. Lots of different ways we can use CoStar to keep tabs on a bunch of different projects, bunch of different clients. So I know we're coming up on time. The last thing maybe I'd like to show is we have this section called Marketing Center. Marketing Center is free to access. So if you go on right now to CoStar, you won't be able to access all of this, but you will be able to access Marketing Center. That's where you can upload your listings into the platform. Why would you want to do this? Well, obviously getting some extra exposure, that can't hurt. But additionally, so this is the homepage. I don't have any listings right now, but what I'm able to do is I'm able to pull what we have a listing on LoopNet, which is CoStar's sister company marketplace. And let's say, for example, I'm the broker and I've advertised 435 City View Boulevard on CoStar or on LoopNet. Either way, I have access to a listing performance report. This report right here shows how many people have looked at my listing, how often they've looked at my listing, and the names, or the company names at least, of people who have looked. So this is a nice little sneak peek here. This property, it's being advertised on a gold package on LoopNet, so it's getting a lot more exposure than most. But 5,500 people have seen the property in the last 30 days, and they've seen it 16,000 times. There's been 179 detailed page clicks, views, and you can see they're getting, on a weekly basis, 4,000 views on LoopNet. Here's your total summary of all the unique visitors, how many detailed clicks. But the best part is down here where we can look at the visitor details. So CoStar is able to track, reverse IP track, who is looking at your listing. And then we can see the company name. So for example, this one here, sorted by total time on page. Interesting to note, Enterprise Cloud Solutions from New York spent 18 minutes on it. We also have Composites Canada, 14 minutes, most recently, just a few days ago. Belmont Concrete Finishing has looked at it 5 times, 3 different people, most recently, May 21st. What's great about this too is this pairs with CoStar. So I can take some of these companies like Composites Canada, I can take it, bring it into CoStar and find some more information on who is the contact at Composites that I want to reach out to. We can also see what else Composites viewed. Okay, they're looking at property in Burnaby. They're looking at something, I'm not sure where that one is either. Or we come down to, let's say, Canada Build, that's a brokerage down there, but it's good to see as well. What else are they viewing? So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to stop my share. And we have about 10 minutes or so left, but I wanted to see if anyone has any questions or if anyone would like me to do like a sample search in CoStar.
Does anybody want anything specific to be looked at, guys? Any questions, anything, please unmute yourself.
We shouldn't be expecting the baby boomer generation to do things that we wouldn't do because it's all.
And it's okay if no one does. That's all good. Or if you have questions later and you want to send them to, Sabiha, if you want to share my contact information with them, that's totally fine. Or if you want to send your questions.
Do we want to talk about pricing and all of that, guys, or do we not want to talk about that yet?
So I think there are a few people who are interested in pursuing licenses, so maybe we can get an idea. And I mean, I know Eric did this in the last session of what an individual license costs, and then whoever is interested, we can just facilitate an introduction.
Yeah, well, that was a question that was asked by a few people that are still online. So if Eric, if you have a minute, then and you can share that with us, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. So how pricing works for CoStar for brokers is there is either, let's say, for example, we're talking about a company like my former company, JLL, a pure commercial shop. How it works is everyone who's a commercial broker at the shop needs to be signed up, which means everyone there. At a place like Sutton Group, where you know there's going to be commercial brokers, there's going to be residential brokers. We just need to understand what the commercial brokers are at a specific location, and by specific location I mean Sutton Group, Summit Realty, your guys' location, and then those brokers can sign up. But we can offer a one-off broker license if there's only, you know, one or two brokers there, and that price is $625 per month on a annual contract. That's tax exempt, so it's $7,500 for the year for CoStar. That
Right.
is
So just like
location.
just to give you an idea, because I think what happens with our realtors is commercial is something that they've just kind of started dabbling in. It's also like, you know, I've come across this through my work history is that, you know, sometimes I get a good commercial client and it's a one-off. So are we able to have per use? If there's anything like that that they have per use for a few months, or you know, while you were servicing that particular client, or is there a monthly use cost for individual realtors?
That's a good question. That's a good question. So CoStar is only an annual
Annual
subscription.
subscription. Okay.
Yeah. And the reason why we do that is because, you know, we find obviously the commercial real estate cycle can take a little bit longer for people. And it also takes time to maybe get fully, you know, onboarded with CoStar, which is why I'm here to help my clients get onboarded and make sure that they get the most use out of it throughout the year, their term.
So for an individual broker is how much?
It's $7,500 for 1 year, and that's no
Okay.
tax on top of that. So $7,500 for one. And then on a group contract, so say for example, Sutton Group Summit would like to sign up and have a few brokers on, that price goes down per each additional person that signs up. So for example, I don't know off the top of my head all the different steps, but you know, if it's two brokers, it's not 625 times 2, 1250. It might be like 1150. And then you add a third one in, that price continues to go down.
I see. Okay.
So I
Okay,
think
good to know.
what makes sense is, you know, for those who are interested, I'm happy to set up other sessions, either one-on-one or a group, and we can explore more use cases. And then once we get a better idea on who's interested, I can, you know, go get the best price option for that group.
Okay. Any other questions? David, do you want to chime into something?
No, I mean, I'd love to get my hands on this platform and really put it to the test, but a great presentation and very powerful resource as well. Especially for those who, and as you're browsing around and looking at the different options, you're going to start putting together some pieces and light bulbs are going to start turning on as to how you can utilize it to do more business and to, create different, business cases to present to different people. Right. So that's kind of what I like about it, is the fact that you can really dig in and, check ownership history, check sales history, check, and do your research to be able to, approach different business owners and approach certain situations to be able to seek out opportunities. And, that's the exciting part for us.
Well said, David. I'm also going to include in the chat here, we've done recently some testimonials. So there's a link here. It's on the CoStar website. These are local Toronto or Canada-wide brokers, owners, lenders who currently use CoStar. So encourage you to take a look at that. Otherwise, maybe we'll call it there, unless I'll do one last if anyone has any questions.
I'm okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm good too.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Okay, guys. Well, David and Sabiha, I really appreciate you guys again for including me. It's a pleasure to be here and to speak to you all, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with Sutton Group Summit in the future. And hopefully we can schedule another of these. And I'm happy to come in the office too and speak with the team anytime.
Yeah, that might be a lot of fun too if we see the platform live and we can actually engage and do
Exactly.
some searching together. Then we're gonna start getting a better idea of the different uses and different opportunities that are presented as well. So maybe we can do something like that in the fall market in September together.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric.
Awesome. Thanks, Sabiha. Thanks, David. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.